Hi everyone, it's James here from Protools Expert, and have I got a great gear review for you today. We're going to take a look at these babies. These are the highly coveted black-face Thunderbolt Universal Audio Apollo units. We have the 8, which has 4 mic pre's, and the 8P, which has 8 mic pre's. All with their amazing unison technology. I'll come on to that in a minute. But these are both the quad versions, so effectively we've got 8 Shark DSP chips to play with, which kind of got me thinking. Now, you've heard me play drums and do all that sort of stuff before through these things, and I'm told, and in initial testing, I can tell you that so far the mic pre's and the A to D's on these sound absolutely stunning. A significant step up from the originals, I will add. But I thought, in the last year, UA and their partners have brought out some amazing guitar amp sims and bass amp sims. So wouldn't it be kind of cool to do a whole session using nothing but the 2 Apollos, some mics, and some instruments? So that is what we're going to do. I've got 2 guys coming over, Luis Correia, who you've met before, or at least seen before in some other videos I've done, and bass player called Ben Hearn. They're going to come over and join me, and we are going to go through setting up the guitar amp, so Louis happy with the sound, and setting up the bass amp, either of the 2 Ampeg models, and we'll put these things through their paces. We're going to put some really nice models from the Unison series of mic pre's. So I think we've used Neves on the kick and snare, and APIs on pretty much everything else. We're then going to go through setting up the amp sims, setting everything up. I'll take you around the session shortly, but everything you'll hear is coming from these. It's either great mics and good mic placement in the drum room, or it's coming from these babies. Should be an interesting one, and I look forward to getting to the end of this one so I actually hear how the session sounds. But so far, in initial testing, all has been very good. So let me take you around the back of these things so I can show you what's going on, and then we'll have a look at the Pro Tools session, and you can see exactly how things are set up. So you can see it's business as usual on the front of the Apollos. We've got the 2 inputs for high Z instruments or guitars. Our first preamp settings knob. The 6 configurable buttons for input selector, phantom power, phase invert, high pass filter, pad, and stereo link. We've then got our input meters or output meters. General controls, our master outputs, meter select, monitor control, and our 2 configurable headphone outputs. Now, I think it's worth knowing at this stage that all the clocking is being done internally by the 2 units. They're all Thunderbolted together. The Thunderbolt runs from the Mac into the 8P and then into the 8. And all the clocking is done via this amazing Thunderbolt star clocking technology. Quite frankly, I don't know how that works. I'm not really that bothered. All I know is it does work. Now, in this case, we have a master unit, and the master in this case is the 8P, and it's controlling all our monitoring. Now, what's worth knowing is that our headphone sends double up. So the headphone send number 1 on the Apollo 8P has the same feed as headphone send number 1 on the 8. So we've actually got 4 headphone pre's on here. So the guys are going to plug into number 2, and we'll set up bass and guitar so they've got a reasonable level each, or we may work it out that they can share with me, whichever they prefer. Bass and drums work together. I probably like quite a lot of bass in my mix, so we play together. Who knows? But it's really cool that these double up. So you've actually got 4 headphone amplifiers built into this particular configuration. As ever, the units are built like brick outhouses, nice and solid. We like that. Let me see if I can get you over the top, just so you can see how we're hooked up around the back. So we've gone for shaky cam around the back. You can see here the 2 power supplies, the Thunderbolt connections. I've got optional word clock on there if I need it, but I don't in this case. My analog outputs on the 8P. The 2 green ones are actually my monitor outputs, so I can hear what we're doing through the main monitor speakers. I've then got my 8 mic inputs. On the bottom, it's exactly the same, but you've only got the 4 mic pre's. We can't really see that very well. And 4 line inputs. So here we are in Pro Tools, and you can see I've got my session set up. Everything is record enabled. Don't necessarily need input monitoring on, but all the inputs are muted because we're going to be monitoring through the UA console. So we've got 2 kicks in and out, snare top and bottom, hat, 3 toms, overheads, not left and right anymore. As of my Mix with the Masters experience, I've realised that left and right depends on which side you're sitting. So these days I'm labelling things overhead hat and overhead floor tom, which makes a bit more sense. We've then got bass and guitar. So a relatively simple session. I think we're using 12 channels. It's all ready to go. All the inputs are assigned accordingly. So let's go over into the UA console and see what's going on there. Here we are in the console, and you can see I've labelled things up, and I've got my 2 sides, my 2 different units. The 8P, which is the blue side, and the traditional 8, which is the green side. And you can see in here I've got, at the moment, we've got the Chandler set up for Louis later on. When he gets here, we'll work out which guitar amp he wants to use, but I've whacked that in there to start with. We've then got the Neve 1073 across the bass drum, both of those, and the snare. And then we're using the API Vision. No EQ or anything like that. I'm just using a bit of high pass on this particular channel. I think that's probably the hi-hat. Using the high pass filter on the way in. Just using this to get the tone of those particular preamps. We're not using any of the EQ compression or anything like that. You can do. I'm not at this stage because it's quite difficult to set those things up while you're actually trying to play drums at the same time. Kind of a challenge. So the mic pre's are all set up. Everything's ready to go. Let's also look over at the 8 side of things. And again, we're using the 2 different units, one for bass, one for guitar. So the bass is all being done by the lower, the original Apollo 8. And again, I'm using the APIs for the 3rd tom and the overheads. So one of the problems we did have when we were setting this up was because of the kind of generic default settings that the Apollos give us, we hit the 32 track input limit of Pro Tools pretty damn quick. So what we had to do is go into here, and I'm going to do another video on this at some point, because as soon as you start using multiple Apollos, you will really need to get your head around this whole core audio interface setting thing. We're in Pro Tools mode, effectively knowing we've only got 32 ins and 32 outs. But we did have to do a bit of remapping to our inputs and our outputs to make sure we could get the full 32 inputs across our 2 banks of 16 inputs from the Apollos. We're tracking at 96K using the internal clock source from the Apollos. Again, there's no external clocks or anything like that. You can see exactly what's going on, plugins wise. Now for monitoring, I'm going to be using Q Mix number 1, and you can see here how I've got things set up. So for example, my overheads. Something to note is that over here, the insert effects, I am actually recording these to tape or to Pro Tools. Only thing I'm not doing is recording my effects send, but to be honest, that's just so I get some space in my head while I'm playing. It's not all dry as a chip. So we're actually recording all the guitar amp sims, bass amp sims, and the Unison technology is actually, will go to tape anyway, but we're actually going to record those plugins to tape. Okay, so we've got 2 Ampeg models we can use.
Cool.
We've got the oldie one.
Is that the SVT? Or
That's the SVT VR.
Right.
And we've also got, he says, or we can have the SVT3, the newer one.
The newer ones.
Yeah. So again, depending on what.
It's a bit more modern sound, isn't it?
It sounds like a bass to me, but I mean,
yeah.
and then you've got all the normal stuff you can tweak, but you've also got so that's effectively the amp. And then you've also got the effects tracky bit, so you can change the speaker cabinets. You can change.
How does it work? Is it sort of pre-gain, post-gain kind of thing? What sort of thing is it?
It's in the mix. So basically, you've got the gain is being set by this one.
Yeah.
And we're hitting it, well, reasonable level.
Yeah.
Probably -6 or so.
Yeah, I'm not playing particularly loud.
Give it some stick, and if we put. pull your. I wonder then, what have we got we can put in the way of it? So I can hit it with a preamp first, but I think that's kind of not going to work. Yeah. Well, it depends how if you're going to be slapping much, I suppose. Really.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
it depends what happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then you've also got 1,000,001 presets we can go through. So I mean,
Yeah.
for example, I think the ones I've liked in the past have been things like that one. That's been quite nice.
whoa,
Maybe not that one.
a touch less of the lower frequency, just a little bit less bass.
Well, okay, dive in.
Yeah,
Because
is that all right? Yeah, cheers.
Can I have another
Just have a
stop?
quick.
Can I have one with the delay?
I
On the 34 one.
you can have a delay as well if you want. I think yes. I'm pretty sure we can do that. It's not a bad sound. To be fair,
Yeah, it's pretty good actually for software, isn't it?
it sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right. I think I'm going to move these cameras in a sec, so when you work out where you're going.
Is there any like compression on here or anything?
Yeah, I think if you kick on where it says effects rack,
Mhm.
I think then we've got compression on over there. So we've got
Is there someone already?
that's the gate. That's the filters. What's that? Amp filters. Don't want that. No, I don't think there's compression as such. Do you
No.
want some?
A little bit, yeah, just a tiny bit of.
Okay. What can we give you? What we'll do then? Ah, there you go. DBX 160, the ultimate compressor. Let's go for. How's that?
Yeah, nice.
Okay, so
That's
we've
cool.
got the SVT 3 Pro going into a little bit of DBX
Okay.
160 because I thought, that, and I think the preset is the jazz fretless setting.
Yeah, it might be a little bit too much.
Okay.
Slightly too. I like the sound, but I
Yeah.
think it might be
So we'll go. How's that? About 1.5 ish.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
That's
better.
Yeah, I think maybe just take the bass frequencies down slightly. A little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay. There you go.
Cool.
Do your
Cheers,
thing.
dude. Thanks.
But what we've also got, so you've got that one, but we've also got something Louis might be a bit more familiar with.
No, it really depends on what we're gonna play, man. Like.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of like that's pretty rock and roll.
Yeah. I haven't got a problem with rock and roll.
Yeah, it really depends on what we're gonna play.
There's also the red one of those.
That's a bit more metal.
that?
Sort of,
Yeah, a bit more fizzy. I mean, those angles are quite brutal. We've then got the one you really want.
You got that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that then.
We've got two Freedmans.
Okay.
So there's this one, which is that one, the DS40, but there's also the BE100, which is I think the real.
Okay. Can we cue then? Oh.
Mate,
So what you wanted like okay.
well, I imagine the kind of sort of it to sound like you. I mean, yours is not a super saturated sound in my head.
Yeah, but depends if you're going to be playing lead, if you're just going to be like some sort of like funky, more...
Well, something that's might be you've got a bit of control over. So I guess the question of how successful this is comes down to two things. How did it sound? Well, personally, for me, in my ears, it was probably the best drum sound I've had in quite some time, and that includes using all this other outboard malarkey. Just because it's simple, it's all in one place, it's pretty much all one flavour, and there's definitely something to be said for that. When you're tracking with all of the same type of preamp on a console, for example, or in this case, even we were using Neves for the kick and snare, and APIs for everything else, there is definitely something to be said for having that kind of unified, glued sound. Headphone preamps are really, really good. They're very loud, or they certainly can be. We weren't even pressing them. Ben and I shared a mix, and Louis had his own because we thought the guitar would want to be louder for him. So from that point of view, the recording was easy. The real question is, can you live without that movement of air? Do guitars work as well when they're not moving speakers or when they're not being reacted with by a real speaker? Now, I think probably 90% of planet Earth really couldn't give a monkey's. It's that last 10% where you get something where the guitarist gets it's feedback, but it's not feedback, if you know what I mean. So it worked. The process is great, and I think for, say, 90% of the individuals listening to this around the world, they'll think, wow, what great guitar tone. And to be fair, the Friedman amps do sound really, really good. The preamps, the high Z inputs in this thing allow the guitar to work really well with the modelled versions, especially the Friedman in this case. Louis, he's been after buying one of these for a while, and it's I think it's the next thing on his shopping list. But the real thing is quite an expensive beast. But as a session, it worked really well. Nothing crashed, nothing died. The only thing that fell over a couple of times was our system running things. The only thing I will say is we did push the system quite hard. I think maybe running at 96k might be doing that. But even when we were at sort of 50-60% on the meters, we started to get some weird noises and we started to over distort things a little bit. We kind of reached the theoretical limit of the plugins. But hey, it didn't hold us back. I actually quite liked the sound we had before we went and started to put pedals and things on the floor. But that's a control thing. The guys wanted to be able to change the tone on the fly, or certainly with their feet. Louis at certain points was leaning over and changing the settings on the amp on the screen, which is not really so ergonomic. But hey, it's just a really, really good sounding system. And you're processing in real time, much like other solutions, be they the Avid one or obviously UA are I think the most popular form of processing on the way in. Or hell, it's like running through a desk, where you're EQing and compressing and things at the tracking stage. I really like it. It's definitely a winner for me. If I hadn't done the HDX thing, would I be thinking seriously about these? Damn right I would. I think a pair of these, say the 8P, the 8, and maybe a 16, so I can use all my other flavours of mic pre's, would be an amazing solution. How many have we got there? 16, 32. Well, we're already going to hit the theoretical limit of Pro Tools, but who tracks in Pro Tools? So I hope you enjoyed that. Massive thanks to Louis and to Ben for coming over and helping me out reviewing these things. As I say, great boxes. They deserve to do really well. I'm sure they're going to. All the UA stuff is bomb-proof and will do incredibly well, I'm sure. So for now, I've been James from Protools Expert, and I'll see you again soon for some more gear talk.